Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A light sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. A special after holiday edition. So we get to talk about all the fun things we did over our Thanksgiving. Yay! So with me, as always, is Ryan and Heno. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hola.
And if I didn't mention, my name's Jen. So
hi, Jen.
Welcome to the show. Hi.
Well, we're already one step over, salty language, because most of the time we don't remember to say our names, or if we do, like this week's, I think we do it about 20 minutes in.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
We're so bad about it.
Well, I do believe that I missed the last episode.
Did you now?
So if I am not mistaken there. So I guess I will have to go first on how my week is, don't I?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I do, I guess.
And so, Brian timed that perfectly.
Yep.
Well, everything was kind of quiet. I ended up working the night shift, so I was working overnight, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So that was kind of interesting, kind of switching my schedule around. So that kind of messed my sleep up a bit, which was a little bit rough when it came to the holiday, because holidays are kind of tougher for me anyways, and then to add sleep issues to it, and it just kind of made it a little bit more sensitive to things, I guess, than I usually am.
Yeah.
So, but my holiday was nice. I went over to my sister-in-law's house, and she's a very nice hostess, but sometimes can be a little bit overbearing. So, kind of had to manage through a little bit of that, a little bit of family stuff. But
what does overbearing as a hostess mean?
You sit here, you drink this,
So it's kind of like when you go on a vacation with somebody and they've got everything planned out for you already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
Gotcha.
Yes, this will be passed. Yeah. This will not be. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, just very, I guess bossing was another word for it. But,
micromanaged.
But she's... Yes, she is very much a micromanager.
There we go. You're a holiday micromanager.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you always have that one friend, and I'm thinking of Annalise from Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks, who likes to consider herself the vacation tour, kind of like tour planner guide.
Yes.
But I like this holiday micromanager.
Yeah.
Mm. And the funny part is, a lot of times the micromanagers feel overwhelmed because they take on everything onto their own shoulders. So they feel like they get, and they get overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of everything, but have a hard time letting others help them.
Yep.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and it's funny because doing that would make things better, but yeah.
But then you'd actually have to give up an element of control.
Yep.
Correct.
And have faith that somebody might be able to do it with the same element of passion and responsibility that you personally.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing that I've noticed with people that are major planners. They hold people to their own standard of themselves rather than hold people to that person's standard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they won't. They don't do it like I do, so they're not good at it. It's like, no, they just do it differently than you do.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because she mentioned the fact that, I don't know. It came across as that she was put out by having the family over. So I said, no problem. I said, we would love to have the family over for holidays. And her response was, but you don't probably have all of plates
of course.
and cups and everything to serve this many people.
Yeah.
To which I responded with, yes,
Brilliant.
yes, I do.
I love it. It's like, oh, well, here, let me play the victim. Okay, well, now I'm going to play.
Yeah.
So it made it a little bit interesting,
It's amusing.
Yes. And we laughed and we just kind of, I let it go. Obviously, I'm not going to make an issue at a family gathering or whatever. So, but I did make it very clear that it's like, you're not the only one that can do this or needs to do this.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to do this, that's fine. So, but it's just family.
Well, it's always funny though too, because sometimes you'll say something like that, like, you don't have to, so and so can whatever, or I can whatever, and the people be like, well, I don't mind, I just.
Yep, exactly.
It's like
I just wanted to play the victim there for a second.
Yeah, it's like I just want you to recognize that I'm the victim here. Validate me, and then everything's fine. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Validation. That's what it really is. It's like, validate my hard work here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but that's about it. And then afterwards I ended up going, doing a little shopping on Friday and more family stuff on Saturday. And today was bowling, and that brought us up to tonight.
Now, on Friday, did you go out early or just later in the day?
It was later in the day. Okay. I happened to be, it was actually, you know what? It wasn't Friday. It was Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't even go out Friday.
That's a whole different beast then. Yeah.
Yep. It was during the Ohio-Michigan game, so everything was pretty quiet.
Yeah. Yep, I bet.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it worked out really well. So
good.
Yeah, and then I started putting my tree up, but I ran out of lights, so now I need to go get more lights for my tree.
Why? You can still see green?
Yes, pretty much. No, I do have the one side of the tree because I don't go around the tree. I go up and down the tree with my lights. Yes, to make it easier. Yeah. And my one side needs more lights because I didn't quite have enough. Mm. So, but that's on the agenda. I have to do that. But other than that was my week. So how about you guys? Who wants to go next?
You want to kick it off there, Brian?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Excuse me. On Tuesday, I had a wisdom tooth removed, and it was really a not fun experience. As easily as the first one went, this went that was that difficult. It took over 2 hours for them to get the tooth out, because my root was really long and really dug in there, like really didn't want to come out. Plus she had to be careful because it was right by a bunch of nerves too, so she had to work slowly, you know. Oof. But oh man, you know, just the inside of my mouth, like when I was done, I was like, man, I felt like I had been through something, you know, like it was a, you know, a mild, very, very mild, but, you know, kind of a trauma almost. I was like, you know, and then I walked off without the prescription for Tylenol 3, so all I had was Motrin the first night, which didn't really do a whole lot. You know, it dulled the pain, but it certainly didn't take it away. You know, and I wasn't sure how it was going to be for Thanksgiving. And like I mentioned to Tony then this week, Salty Language, I was like, you know, luckily almost everything that you have at Thanksgiving is fairly soft. You know, there's not very many dishes that aren't, you know. But Thursday came around and I was still in pain and I just really didn't feel like it. So I didn't go, cause it even hurt to talk for any length of time, you know? So it's like, I'm not going to really be able to talk. I'm not really going to be able to eat, you know, it's like, I don't want to go and just sit. So, you know, I didn't go, and my mom brought me stuff later and I did eat some stuff. You know, so I didn't like totally miss out on it, but it was still, yeah, it was really, really tough. And like, even now I'm still in a decent amount of pain and I don't know, I'm actually going to call tomorrow to make sure that this is normal. Because I've had a couple people mention to me that it might be dry socket. So, cause it still hurts pretty bad. And I have a couple of the other symptoms of it. So, but I'm just going to, you know, just call just to double check, see what they say and go from there. Hopefully it's not, I mean, given how long it took and how brutal it was, you know, cause I mean, you know, my dentist had to take 2 breaks during the thing to rest her hand basically because her hand was, her hand was cramping from trying to get this thing out. Yeah, you know, plus they had other patients, you know, waiting because normally a tooth removal doesn't take 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, they probably had me booked for, you know, 45 minutes to an hour and I was in there a lot longer. So yeah, so it's still bugging me pretty bad. You know, and it feels pretty tore up even, like moving my tongue over in the area. It feels pretty like tore up still. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. You know, it's funny though, Tony mentioned to me, when I was telling him, he's like, aren't you glad this isn't the one you had done first? And I was like, oh man, can you imagine? I would have been like, nope, knock me out. And honestly, I still have one wisdom tooth and it's on the bottom. So if I have to have that one out, I'm going to be like, knock me out.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to sit through that again. It wasn't that I couldn't handle it. You know, I was great, you know, like normal in the chair, but it was, I just don't want to sit through that because it's kind of traumatic with, you know, them pulling and yanking and, you know, it's right there in your face, you know.
Yeah.
It was not fun. I do not recommend that. So yeah, that was, yeah, good times. So that,
mine were like that.
Yeah. Eesh. That's, you know,
I had all mine done under a local and they were all just brutal and my face just hurt for like a week.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm thinking mine probably is that it was so hard to get out of there and from all the different, you know, tools that she was using in there and different angles she went to try to get it out of there. I don't know. She, you know, it probably took a lot of, you know, stuff because that tooth was it wasn't all the way through the gums either. You know, it was like halfway through. So, you know, so there was that too. And I think that as an element of it too, it's, you know, anyway, it's, you know, it wasn't fun. It kind of messed my head up for a couple days because it, you know, there was no anxiety really, even sitting in the chair. I didn't get much anxiety until probably about an hour and a half in. And then I'm like, this needs to end. And I actually, at one point, a couple times I held my hand up so they'd stop, so they would back away, basically, because even with my eyes closed, I could feel that there were two people, like, right over me. And I was starting to feel really closed in because it was so long, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
But other than that, I didn't really have much anxiety, because going in, I'm thinking, this is easy. I'm going to sit down and right out the door, you know? Not so fast. Oh, man. So, yeah, I'm getting to where I'm eating a little more now, but I'm still eating pretty soft stuff, which kind of sucks, because I'm tired of, like, macaroni and cheese and SpaghettiOs and, you know, just soft stuff.
The basics.
Yeah, it's like I really want pizza, but I'm kind of afraid to eat it because of the crust, you know? Yeah, so anyway, but, you know, so that kind of influenced my Thanksgiving, obviously, and then, you know, that's been about it for the week, though. I haven't really done anything else, just laid around and, you know, whined about how I'm in pain.
Seems like you're justified, though.
Yeah.
You know, laying around and just being...
Well, what blows my mind is like I've told some people, and they're like, oh, yeah, all of mine were that way. And I'm like, how in the heck did you, you know? And they're like, oh, they put me under. I was like, oh, okay, well, understandable. I'm like, you still have to deal with it after, you know? But when they pull all four, they give you better drugs.
Yes, I was out and they pulled all four at the same time.
Yeah.
It completely knocked me out.
I wish I would have had that done, you know, when I had the first one removed. I've had 3 removed individually. You know, I wish I would have just had them all pulled at one time back when I had that first one done.
They didn't even like, because of my allergies, they couldn't put me under. I would have had to have gone to the hospital.
Oh, geez.
They would have had to have done a whole breather and everything. So I was like, I'll just do the local. So I got to like hear and feel them yanking and the braking and I mean, it's literally like a construction job going on in your mouth.
Yeah. The part I was afraid of was I didn't want to hear like any sort of like a suction kind of the tooth sliding out, basically. But I didn't hear that. I did hear everything you just said, though. You feel all the pressure. You know, there was no pain really. There were a couple times, but most of it, there was no pain, just a ton of pressure. And like you said, it feels like they're just taking every tool in the box, basically, and just tearing in the inside of my face out.
Yeah, there's breaking into pieces and pulling the chunks out, and you feel all of it. And they like gave me like a couple days worth of, like you said, like Tylenol 3s.
Yeah.
And then it was like, and then just take Advil. But nobody said like how much Advil I could take. And at that time I didn't know.
Right.
So I'm like, this sucks. I mean,
yeah.
I think I was like 20 maybe.
Wow.
Maybe 19. I was young.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's so funny though, because different people I've talked to, each one of them, you know, like they're like, oh yeah, I had mine out and they gave me this. I've heard various medicines, and I mean people that are roughly the same age. So it was, you know, kind of the similar times that they had them done. You know, it wasn't like 20 years ago. One was this week or something, you know. But it's funny how, you know, some people got, like, you know, Tylenol and codeine, or, you know, like I got that and Ibupro 800, Motrin, you know, and, I'm alternating. Yeah. And, you know, and I've heard other people that got like, Oxy for it, you know, and I'm like, you know, it's just amazing to me how there's not, like, it's not like one thing across the board. It seems like there's a few different ones. And I don't know if they're like, oh, well, this was super traumatic, or they're going to hurt a lot, so it's this one, or, you know, I would assume that's what it is, but I don't think that's the case. Because a couple of people I know that had really bad, you know, like where it was tough to get them out, they pretty much got Tylenol, codeine, and ibuprofen. So, you know, it's interesting to me how there does not seem to be kind of a, you know, this is the medicine you get for this, you know?
Right.
Seems more like they're like, here's a group of medicines, you know? And
that's probably what it is. There's just a variety of different medicines that they can be used, but.
Yeah. Man, I'll tell you, I kind of wish they had given me something just a little stronger though. So.
Right.
least, to take when I go to sleep, basically, cause it's still a little, it doesn't hurt to the touch, so I can sleep on it now. But yeah, anyways, that, like what Henno was saying is like, it took me a couple days, it took a couple days afterwards to where I was kind of like not closing my eyes and hearing those sounds again. And, it's like, even now I could probably do it.
Yeah. I still remember this day. It's been over 20 years. It's been 25 years.
That's amazing, isn't it? It's so weird.
It was trauma.
Yeah. Oh, it was. That's why I said I don't want it. I don't want this to be any sort of a contest, but it was traumatic.
No, but it's
very traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would seriously not want to be around people either.
Yeah.
Especially people eating. I'd be like, nope.
Right? Yeah. Meanwhile, online, I'm seeing all these people post all these pictures of their dinners looking fantastic, and I'm sitting here looking at my bowl of macaroni and cheese and like, look, it's good, but it's not,
Please some mashed potatoes, please.
Yeah. This reminds me of when I had my tonsils out. I had my tonsils out like a couple days before Christmas, so my family get together. I'm like eating very little because my throat was killing me, I just got to quit scheduling stuff by holidays,
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, it's my own fault. So anyway, I know, how was your week? Now that I've talked for like 2 hours.
Mine was very lazy, which was good. That was the point of not going home for Thanksgiving for the first time.
Oh, you stayed.
That was, yeah.
Okay.
Like usually we'll leave on either Tuesday night or Wednesday night. Lately it's been like right after work on Tuesday, drive 6 hours to Winnemucca, stay the night, then drive the rest of the day on Wednesday. But the last couple of years we've done it actually. No, it has been always on Wednesday, but we get there the night before Thanksgiving and celebrate usually my parents' anniversary and my dad's birthday, which are at the same time.
Oh, okay.
And get to see my family without, before there's 50 people in the house kind of thing.
Sure.
But it's a hassle because it's, the dogs and we bring them along all the time and getting them in the car and, all that stuff. It's, expenses and whatever. So it was nice not to even have to think about it.
Yeah.
And we were short staffed at work. My boss needed a vacation and one of my coworkers did too. So I was going in, like I went up, I got a massage I set up a massage on Thanksgiving, which was nice. I had a credit at where I work and it was like, I had to go up there and do some stuff for work anyway, for like an hour and then went and did that. And, there was a potluck at our local recovery hall and, we got there a little late because we were watching the dog show and, just kind of hung out there a little bit and chatted stuff up. And then I think I took a nap every day.
I have been
fabulous.
Too, but mine's just been, it's, because of, it's weird. The medicines I'm on really shouldn't like knock you out, but I certainly feel more drowsy when I'm taking them. So I've just been taking naps, or maybe that's just my way of justifying the naps. I don't know, whatever.
Well, I haven't been a really good napper lately. It used to be something I did a lot. And somewhere online I stopped. And so like, I think it was on Friday. I did go into work for a little bit. I went to the gym. Or that might've been on Saturday, but either way, it was like, get home about 1:00, fall asleep on the couch for like 45 minutes. It was just really nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, I did a few things around the house, but not a lot. And that was great too. Just really no pressure and, tried to play my favorite video game, but that was just frustrating as all get out. And so I have officially rage quit one more time. I did not break an iPad in the process.
Good. That's, that's progress. Yeah.
Yeah. And my clan lead is like, cause I threatened it on Friday night. I'm like, I think I'm done. I'm like, it's not even fun anymore. And then Saturday morning, it was like, I tried again and it was just so bad. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. He like sent me a message. He's like, is everything okay? I'm like, I gotta not do this anymore. It is not enjoyable.
Right.
And my studio could really use some dusting and love.
Well, it's worse than not just being enjoyable, because it actually, it isn't, it's not like you just sat there and were meh. The fact that it irritated
I was angry.
you. Yeah, it actually moved you completely past zero, backwards. So it's like, there's no reason to have that stuff in your life,
Yeah. Why, that's the thing. It's like, why would that's not an enjoyable pastime.
Yeah.
And it was funny because this time I decided to go onto iTunes and get refunds on any purchases I've made through because I like to support game developers. If they make a good game, I'll do in-app purchases because I'm supporting the game.
Right.
It's it kills time. So it was kind of funny. I'm like, and I'll take refunds for everything, which pretty much will have my account blocked, which I'm like, fine, I'm done. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
But it was, which got me to download a couple books and, Saturday night I spent reorganizing my studio and getting things put together so I could record again. And, it was time.
Yeah.
And like I said, why would I want to have something that frustrates me in my life? What sucks is like from a social standpoint, I was really starting to enjoy. I mean, the guy who put together the clan that I recently joined also has a great Facebook group and good group of guys. And I've been on, Discord, and I've actually, talked to them while we were, doing a clan war. And I mean, it was a good group of people, but it's like, if I'm going to split, I'm splitting completely. I'm just like,
otherwise there's going to be that.
Everybody, it's like, I don't want to know.
Right. Yeah. You're right though, because, I haven't played Magic the Gathering in any real capacity in a long time, off and on. I've gotten with people and played a game or, a few hours worth, or I play it like whenever they put one out on the Xbox or whatever, I play it. But other than that, I don't buy any cards anymore. I don't even have most of my stuff anymore. I got rid of a lot of it. And, but I'm still part of like two groups that are local Magic player groups. And as they're like, oh, this card came out, and I'll look at it and go, like type of thing. Or they'll post a deck list and I'll look at it and see what the deck does. And I'm like, ooh, like it just, and I'm like, nope. Cause I literally cannot afford to play that game. It's just too expensive. And, but I want to so bad. Like I loved playing it. It's super frustrating, but I enjoyed playing it. But, it got to a point that, like I said, it was just money, and it's not a cheap game to play. Not at any competitive level. Let me rephrase. You can play it and play cheaply, but to play it at any competitive level, you gotta have the best stuff, and the best stuff's not cheap. So, but you're totally right though. And there's different times where I'm like, I should probably leave these groups because I really don't add anything to them, because when they talk about stuff, I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I haven't seen that set or that card or, I can't offer any deck advice.
Then I was starting to laugh because I found myself, retail therapying right away.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, this isn't good. I shouldn't be on here shopping.
Sure you should.
Well, what I did a lot of shopping. I didn't do a whole lot of buying.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. That was good. Yeah. And there was a moment where I started to shop a lot, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. There's some things that you need to repair. And it was like, okay, let's play this through again. Let's get out of the therapy part of it.
Yeah.
Which is part of kind of getting, it's another way to get out of myself, but not do any damage.
Right.
As long as I don't buy anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say you actually could do some damage depending on what you buy.
Exactly. And recently I had bought some stuff, but it was things that, and I bought some things that I want for the studio, but I got a good deal and I'm going to sell a bunch of stuff to help pay for it. Right. And so that was one of the things I accomplished over the weekend, was list some things for sale. And it just reminds me that there's a lot of things that I want, but do I really need them? And to have those, I have to have those conversations again with myself all the time.
Yep.
And I wish I didn't, but I do.
Yeah.
Totally and I have to readjust and go, okay, what is, is this something you need? Because the shopping part is actually kind of fun. I don't mind it, like I said, it serves a purpose, as long as I'm doing it Yeah.
Well, and who doesn't like getting
doing it responsibly,
right? Yeah. Because like who doesn't like getting boxes from Amazon or whatever, like ooh, I forgot what I ordered.
That's my problem. Yeah. I start getting stuff. I'm like, oh, what's this?
It's a lot harder than it used to be to forget though, because of Amazon's 2-day shipping. Like before when you'd have to wait a while for something to come, like a week or whatever, and then it shows up and you're like, I didn't order anything. And, oh yeah, I did. But now it's more like, more and order it and they're like, hey, it's on its way.
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
Well, then you're getting the emails and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's usually the eBay stuff that I forget.
Yes. You're right.
Like what did I get?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've the last few times I bought on eBay, when it shows up, I'm like, I didn't order anything. Like, oh yeah, I did from eBay. Cause I'm thinking like, one of the things the guy shipped in an Amazon box and didn't like marker or anything over the Amazon logos. So I was like, I didn't order anything from Amazon. And I was like, well, maybe somebody, cause I have a wish list that's public, and I did that a long time ago, in case family or somebody wanted to buy something, I could just throw stuff in there. But, it was, it was just really funny, like doing that. Cause I'm just like, what the heck did I like, I was like, oh, well, maybe somebody bought from my wish list or something. And I was like, I really don't think anybody would, but I open it up and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this from eBay.
Surprise!
Yeah. Like, how did I forget that?
I was like, and you might have a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was all this stuff is always good. It's good for me to mix things up in my life and to put things back into perspective. So it was a good weekend for that. And like today I haven't really had to work a full day of work. I've been doing like little half days here and there, cause we were short staffed and everything. And, so today was my full day kind of back at work, and it's like, okay, yeah. And I had better energy, so the relaxing ended up being a good thing. Mm. There's nothing worse than when you're like, okay, I'm going to relax, and then you get back to work and you're like, ugh,
Yeah, yeah. Now,
I found myself with plenty of it.
Did you have any of the guilt of just basically like, I haven't done anything today and feel guilty about it, or were you able to actually enjoy it? Good.
Yeah, because I did take care of things, even though it was like, as always, we always have greater plans until we get in the house and hit the couch.
Right.
So true.
Right.
Yeah, because then you look at your to-do list and you're like, what can I do from here?
Exactly. It's a matter of concessions at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it was the perfect holiday weekend in the end. That was like, when I called my mom and told her I wasn't going to be coming back, she's like, that's good. You busted your butt with the whole campaign thing.
Yeah.
You need some time off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, I do. So
like I've spent plenty of the year doing inaction. So now I need a bit of inaction.
Yeah. And it's true. But good inaction, because there are times where you do inaction and it's like you said, you end up feeling guilty about it.
Right. Cause like you're just sitting there simply because you just don't want to get up and do something. Not because you need to recharge your batteries or anything. It's just I'm sitting here, it's comfortable. There's a bag of Cheetos next to me. I really don't have to get up until, I have to use the bathroom or something. And even then there's a bottle sitting next to me. So you start making life decisions,
I did just get done with dinner and eat an entire box of Red Vines, and I feel really guilty about that though.
No,
when I got done the last 3, I'm like, well,
Might as well, yeah. Right. Yeah,
Of course.
not I'll leave 3. That way later if I want some, I could have those 3 or something. No, just kill it now. Yeah.
Those 3, which were another 25 grams of sugar.
Right. Well, I went to get a piece of pumpkin pie last night, and there was one piece in the pie tin that was basically like a piece and a half. And I'm like, well, if I cut a piece off of this, there's going to be this little slip. Like, I might as well just eat it all. So I get you.
Right.
Now, the difference, though, I didn't feel guilty at all. I was like, yum, yum, yum.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So, Hanno, did you have any Thanksgiving dinner, or did you guys just?
We went to our it's called the Sun Club. It's our little recovery hall, and they had a big old potluck.
That's cool.
Oh, nice.
So yeah. So we walked in and most everyone had already eaten, and there was still plenty of food left. So, but grabbed some food, sat down, hung out with some friends. Actually had the usual Thanksgiving fixins. So.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you got yourself a turkey.
But we were ready to pizza it. Seriously, I'm like, pizza.
It's really funny. A long time ago, I kind of got to that point to where I'm like, the food's fine and all. And, and again, it's different with me than it is with a lot of people, because the people who are at my family gatherings all live in town. Any day I want to see them, I can see them pretty much. So it's not as big of a deal. There's no one coming from like California that you only see once a year, or, that kind of thing. There's none of that. So as a result, it's like, if I miss it, I'll see you in a couple weeks or something, like type of deal, or I can just go over to your house. So, and like I said, the food stuff, it's like, it's fine and all, but it's like, I've really been trying to do better with food. It's like those things always lead to me making a lot of bad decisions. So, because I get into it and I'm like, it's Thanksgiving. Just let yourself go. Tomorrow you can, but then tomorrow there's leftovers. And anyway, so I just kind of got to a point where I'm just like, whatever, if I go, cool. If I don't, that's fine too. But I'm like, I'd be just as happy staying home getting a pizza. I really would. I really would,
And I think in general, because of what I'm doing during the day, like I don't have an issue with isolating. I just don't.
Yeah.
I'm a relatively social human.
Yeah.
So, and Sharon's kind of like that too. We're both very much pretty good homebodies.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. Not to mention, I like watching football. That's the one thing that I like more than anything on the day, because I'm a Lions fan. My team's always on. They generally lose, but I still like watching. And, now there's 3 football games on, so I can just sit all day and watch football if I want to. But I'm not one, I don't love watching sports with other people. Like, I don't necessarily like a huge group to sit and watch sports with. I would just assume just me and, a couple people's fine, but I don't want like a room full. And it's usually because there's usually one obnoxious person in the group. And that person always irritates me and makes it to where I'm not, or people are talking over, I can't hear the analysis and stuff, so it's just a personal, preference. So it's like, again, it's another reason where, like, I was here, I turned the TV on, I'm sitting there eating my macaroni and cheese, and I'm just watching the Lions, and I was like, this works for me. I didn't feel like I was missing anything at that point, and I know to some that may seem like, wow, you didn't miss your family. And again, it's like, no, because I see them, they're around.
Yeah.
I talk to them on Facebook, or I text with them, or we see each other occasionally, it'd be different if somebody was coming in that I never get to see. Like my grandma's next birthday is her 100th birthday, and my aunt will probably come in from Oklahoma, who I haven't seen in years. Like family will come up from West Virginia that hasn't been up here and I haven't seen in years. So yeah, I want to go to that because they're all getting older, So yeah, that I want to be part of, plus it's my grandma's 100th birthday. So,
yeah,
that's
serious.
That's a huge milestone.
Right. So, like in that case, yeah, I would feel really bad if I didn't go to that,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway.
Well, that's good. I mean, it sounds like everybody had a fairly reasonably good week, other than Brian's pain, which unfortunately sucks.
Brian's face.
Yeah. Other than Brian's face.
Yeah.
Man.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
So, Brian, you had an article that you wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, and this is actually, it's very relevant to me, as we've, if you've listened for a while, you'll know. And the name of it's from Psychology Today, and it's by Susan, I don't know if it's Bialy. I don't know, she's an MD. And the name of it is 5 Steps to Finding Your Passion. And, I've talked on here plenty of times about how, as I'm on the road of recovery from, with my depression and stuff, that I'm trying to find how to relight fires that were there before, trying to find things I was passionate about before and get that passion again, or realize that I've moved past that in my life, because some things you were passionate about when you were younger, you're not. Again, Magic the Gathering is a great example. I was very passionate about it for a long time. And once I finally got away from it, it's kind of like, now I could easily relight that passion, but I also know that where I'm at in my life right now, that's not a good idea, and it's not really doable, so that's been part of the process too, is kind of looking at things going, is this really something that I want to do anymore, or am I just like, oh, well, I used to do it, so I have to do it now, kind of a, almost like you're giving into nostalgia kind of a thing. So I don't know if you guys have gone through stages of that or not, but yes. Yes, no. Silence. All right.
I was just enjoying watching Brian do his kind of eyes rolling around like, do I hear crickets?
Nothing
in the background?
Sorry.
Anybody? Going once? So have you guys ran into that too?
Yeah. I mean,
I know for a fact Henno has, because of he's talked about it on the show.
Exactly. And it's tough.
I can give an example of you kind of going through this, Jen, which was when you were going back to volunteer, to work at the theater downtown. To be part of that and maybe be involved in, musicals and whatever that they were, putting on, and it seems maybe I'm talking for you. I don't mean to, whatever, but.
No, you're right. It does. The tough part for me is reigniting some former passions. When you're in a different spot in your life than you were when you originally felt those passions, it takes you to a different place. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well here, but like there's a little bit of nostalgia. Like when I was back on the stage again, there was some nostalgia that brought back some memories and things, but I was in a different place in my life than I was originally. So it didn't quite fit into my life like it did before. Right.
That's kind of what I was getting at when I was saying, like, is this really something I'm passionate about now?
Exactly. Yeah. So finding that, and I was passionate about it now, but it just didn't fit into my life, so I couldn't maintain it like I could back then.
Yeah, exactly. Which is that point where you make that decision where it's like, well, not right now, this is not a passion I have to, I have to put a ton of focus in, or unless you go, you know what, I'm really missing this, I need to switch my life around so this is in my life more, which I've known plenty of people to do, to where they're like, I got to do this less so it gives me more time for something else or whatever. Yeah, great examples when somebody becomes a parent, a lot of times they have to put something else away so that, because their passion has to be also involved in what their kids are doing.
Yeah, and it's finding that balance. It's really difficult in life sometimes to find your balance of where to, to focus your energies and your attentions.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because you only have, like Henno, was it that article or whatever you were talking about, where it's like you only have so much each day, kind of a thing. It's
only so much willpower. And I think that also goes with. I think that also goes goes with just the energy you have left to pursue things like your passions.
Right, because if you work a long shift and then get home, you're dead tired. It's like, I really don't feel like going to play racquetball or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, how can you even work up enough energy to get passionate?
Yeah. Yep.
And for me, it's been, and I have so many things that I'm passionate about doing, let alone just vaguely interested in doing.
Right.
But I have so many things that I do. My whole issue, and that I've shared most on here, has been about reigniting when I kind of lose interest in something.
Yep.
It kind of comes more down into projects than finding a passion. I know Sharon. I was talking to Sharon about it this weekend, where we were talking about her job, and like right now she's literally doing a job because she doesn't like it, so it's a job.
Right.
And even though, I am doing, to me, like she calls it a career, it's actually I guess it is, and it's something that I love to do. I enjoy doing it. I get a lot of satisfaction out of it, and it's not so much a job as it's my living. And I think there's a distinction in that, but I also have a certain passion for it.
Yeah.
And
you're right, though. There
overall,
is a difference in the two. Like when you're working a job for a paycheck versus working a job because, even though it is ultimately for a paycheck, but it's also because, like you said, there is an element of passion to like what you do in your job. You've said it various times on here about how you enjoy what you do. Yeah,
it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it really does. And then I think a lot of it also. Then I do also have because it's something I enjoy doing. I don't come home mentally taxed from it.
Yeah. And
so I can enjoy my passions a little easier.
That makes sense because you don't have to decompress in the ways, you don't have necessarily, I mean, I'm sure you still have frustrations, but you aren't probably going to have everyday frustrations the way somebody who clearly doesn't like what they're doing. Every day they're going to come home and have to unload.
You just feel tapped.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge advantage. And then it's just a matter of, keeping myself inspired to do, because there is a point where I think, and this is so I guess where I was getting at is I'm very lucky where I have lots of interests. I don't feel like I'm lacking anything in my life. I can be very content where I'm at, and I'm very fortunate, and I'm grateful for that. Then it just comes down to that there's a point where our passions become a little different, where it's no longer that exciting new thing. It's something that has become I heard this thing today listening to a podcast, and the person was talking about music and art, is that songs and art are never finished. They're just abandoned.
There's that's really an interesting take, because
isn't it
the hardest thing in art is knowing when you're done, like knowing when to walk away, essentially,
Yeah.
And there's so many times looking back.
Yep.
Yeah, you can look back and go, I could push the values here a little more, or I could do this and tweak, so yeah, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. I actually like that.
Yeah. And so when something's exciting and new, it's easy to be into it. But once you're into it, now it's like you got to learn kind of your limits. Are your passions becoming too consuming? But anyhow, that's not the point of this article. The point of this article is more about when you don't have your passion.
Yeah, refinding it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and basically, again, it's 5 tips or 5 steps to finding your passion. And yeah, I'm not going to read the first part. I'm just going to go right to the talking points. But again, and I'll actually have another article from Tiny Buddha that a woman wrote about kind of the same thing, and how she found her passion again, and that I thought was a pretty good article. Both of those will be in the show notes, or in the Facebook post or whatever, if anyone wants to read them. The first point on here was inventory your talents. It says, what are you good at or have a natural aptitude for? Forget about what you're good at, but don't really like doing much. I'm talking about the things you have a knack for that delight or happily occupy you. Are there things that you do or that you like to do that you don't think you're good at? There, geez, I'm having a hard time here. That other people have complimented you on. Perhaps you even dismissed or rejected their enthusiasm. Much after digging and questioning, I recently discovered that one of my coaching clients loves taking pictures. She rarely picks up her camera as she didn't think she was any good. I asked her to email me some of her favorite shots, and they were fantastic. She was skeptical at first, but when I convinced her that I knew what I was talking about, in parentheses it says, I have earned income from my own photography, she could hardly contain her excitement. She finally had permission to fully embrace this pastime that she loves so much. Yet when I had asked her about her passions in our first sessions, she had come up empty. You know, something really interesting to me about this is I listened to a podcast by Tinder where they were talking about, working on people's profiles, and so that they're not just so that they will land you a person, but so that they're actually an accurate representation of who you are. Because most of the time, who we think we are, others don't quite see us that same way, or they see that and there was one guy, I forgot what it was, he's really good at like playing violin or something like that, didn't even mention it, kind of a thing. And, there were a few people that did this, like, that, when you're asked about yourself, you're like, I got nothing, I don't know, I'm boring, I'm really plain.
Yeah.
And other people will be like, Are you kidding me? You do this, So I think that's a really simple thing to do. And it also can kind of lead to how you can lose your passion for something because you don't think you're good at it or whatever,
you don't recognize your strengths.
Yeah. It's just like, it's like for me, for a long time, I would look at, other artist stuff on Instagram or the internet and be like, man, I'm not that good and blah, blah. And it's like, but the funny thing is, potentially there's people looking at my stuff going, I'm not that good, and that kind of a thing. Plus, first of all, you should, don't compare yourself to others, find your own voice, but it's still the idea that, because of the way I looked at it, I'm immediately going, oh, I'm not good at this. And it's like, look, am I top level at this? No. But, it's like, look, somebody who plays, A baseball, the lower level of the minor leagues is A. So someone who's playing an A ball is still better than so many people at baseball. To make that team, you're still so much better than so many people, but you're not at the Major League Baseball level. There's still there's room for you to grow, but you're still really good. So instead of looking at it as though, well, I didn't make the top level, it's like, yeah, but you made where you did, at least appreciate where you made it, and recognize that you actually are good at something. So, and cause I know
Absolutely.
A lot of people probably are like, yeah, but the people tell me I'm good at something because they're just blowing smoke, that's an easy dismissal for it.
Well, I think I went.
Oh, go ahead, Anna.
I think I went through a lot of this kind of consideration during the election. Because somebody came up to me and suggested that I have talents for this.
Yeah.
And even though I might, agree, it was still a matter of, well, that doesn't mean I have a desire for it.
Right.
Exactly.
That's true.
Right?
Totally
but
right.
It's still that same thing. It's like, all right, things that I love or I'm good at. And when I look at it and I go, okay, yeah, there's things that I love and that I can bring to this.
Yep.
And a lot of that was the consideration of it. Okay. Is because no matter what, when you're talking about passion, you're talking about a commitment too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Totally right.
And you have to decide whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one to see how, something that you're passionate about, how it fits into your life and how you can make it a part of your daily routines or, it's tough sometimes to fit it all in.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely can. It's, so that's a real good first tip there is to, take a look at what you're good at. And again, like a good example, like Henno mentioned that with the election. When I was in school for graphic design, honestly, there was a lot of it that when I was at that age, I didn't want to really go into graphic design. I wanted to go into illustration, but I went into graphic design because of, the school I chose to go to. They didn't offer illustration. So I took graphic design. So a lot of the time in my head, I was like, I'm not really passionate about this, but I keep getting told by the teachers that I'm good at it. So, and my grades are good. So clearly I'm doing something right. And then eventually I got to where I got passionate about it, but it was still something that if you had asked me when I was like 19, to list stuff I'm good at, I'd put, design stuff on there, but I'd be like, yeah, but I don't want to do that for a career, so, it definitely.
And that's where we talk ourselves out of potential opportunities.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Because we start where somebody else suggests something to us. We go, yeah, I do have the talents for it, but this doesn't fit in with my grand plan.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to make a living off of it, or, something like this. And we talk ourselves out of something that you never know where it might take you.
You never know when one door is going to open.
Mm-hmm. And it's so tough to be objective when it even comes to yourself and in understanding, where your talent lies and when to progress and push yourself further and when to accept kind of where you're at with it and just kind of let it go.
Yeah. Well, and there's something else here too, is that I'm going to push the tip a little further that she's given here, in that don't just sit down and think of this stuff yourself. Ask people.
Yeah.
Ask people
that's key.
What they think you're good at. Or just, hey, what am I good at? And see what they list. Because again, much like I talked about a while ago about things people liked about me, you'll probably find something that you didn't think of. And even if it doesn't turn into anything that, you're really passionate about or moving forward, at least you can kind of go, okay, and it helps you at least appreciate that and see, keep your eyes completely open, instead of just closing off going, well, I'm only going to do this, be like Henno. If someone said, hey, Henno, what are you good at? And he'd be like, music. And he just stops,
Yeah.
And it's like, but you're also good at, like other things and, but it don't necessarily just, blinders to everything and laser focus on one thing. It's just like, in art, when you do thumbnails, you lay out, like 50 different thumbnails or something. And it's like, you just try not to fall in love with the first one, lay them all out there and then really look around at what you've put down and choose the best one at that point. And I think this is kind of that way too, is look at all the things you're good at and then maybe, like write down everything you're good at, then eliminate the stuff that you really don't want to do, basically. Which will shrink the circle until, kind of just rule stuff out until you can find something you want to chase,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Good point on the too, Henno, about the not having to make money. That's in this also. I didn't get to that part, but, about don't let that be, a reason to stop you. There's a lot of people who go do one job and then come home and do something different. Stand-up comedians do it, pro wrestlers do it, musicians do it, artists do it, to where it's like, hey, I got to pay my bills while I work on my passion. And hopefully eventually, maybe the passion will pay off, or if it doesn't, at least I get the reward of doing something I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I think I think it's even mentioned later on, but it's just this idea of hey, there is a journey here. Enjoy the journey. Don't limit yourself. Don't try to control the outcome.
Yeah.
Pursue the passion without an outcome in mind, because you never know where it's going to take you.
Yes.
Like you might say, oh, I'm going to be a musician. You end up actually becoming a mixing engineer that does live sound or something.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because while you were up on stage, you were watching the guy and you're going, wow, I think I could do that better than he can.
Right? Yeah.
But you would have never known that unless you'd gone up on that stage.
Right. Well, I mentioned that.
Exactly.
I think I mentioned that to you at one point when we've talked, Henno, about how years ago, it's like what I wanted to be when I was in high school and stuff. I wanted to get into drawing comic books. That was what I really wanted to do. And it's at one point in there, I was kind of like, I don't really think this is going to happen because I even recognized I wasn't putting in enough work, But what I was looking at was the fact that I was in commercial art in high school. I was in a graphic design class. And, one time I was reading a comic book called Spawn, and in the front of the book, they were like, hey, we're looking for graphic designers, And I was like, if I got my foot in that door, I could still say I'm working in the comics industry. I'm working on a comic book, and it's like, it may not be in the capacity I originally thought, but I'm still getting to be artistic. I'm working in a comic book and I'm in the industry. Really, those are the things I really wanted. I mean, aside from notoriety, which you're not going to get as much notoriety, being a designer in comic books as a penciler, but still, it's, it still would be really close to what I was hoping for, So,
Yeah. I had I was teaching, I think I might have even mentioned this before on the show, but I was doing a junior achievement class with some students in 7th grade, and we were talking about careers and how to pick a career for your future.
Yeah.
And so we started with what you're passionate about, and I got kind of a kid that was on the shorter side, and he said, I'm passionate about basketball. And, of course, the class kind of giggled and laughed and stuff. And I said, no, let's talk about this. Let's think about this and work it out. Without having a growth spurt, probably not going to be a basketball player professionally. Could happen, but we'll just say that the odds are probably not in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, Muggsy Bogues played it.
This passion.
Yeah, Muggsy Bogues played it 5'3", so I mean, but that's one guy,
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm like, we're not going to rule it out completely, but let's just put that aside for now. That's the easy way out.
Right.
And let's see, what else can you do with this passion for basketball? And the students all came up with really great ideas, like, sportscast or coach, mascot, scorekeeper, all this great stuff came out of it. And by the end, the kid was very, very excited. And you could tell he was very excited about different opportunities and things that he could use his passion for. Same thing with a young girl said that she loved shopping. And I said, perfect. Have you heard that there's such a thing as a personal shopper? Mm-hmm. And she was so excited, the idea of using someone else's money to go shopping.
Right. Or a buyer for a company, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. The woman I had as a marketing teacher, that's actually what she did for years for, I don't remember which of the department stores it was, but she worked as their head buyer for a good amount of time, like 8 or 10 years. So, there's that kind of job in there too. Yeah, and
it was neat to really take kids down that path, and it's an exercise that we all can do, and we all have done at different points in our lives. Yeah, you take what you're passionate about and see how you can make it work for you. Mm-hmm.
There's one of my quote unquote coaches, or whatever you want to call them, is doing this. It's this kind of a Tony Robbins-esque kind of a program where, where anything you want to do, you can do, kind of a thing. And a lot of it has to do with, removing blocks to our mental processes and all that kind of stuff like that. Yeah. Anyhow, this it's been primarily used in business, but a lot of people use it for, for their hobbies and their passions as well. And he was telling me a story about a guy that wanted to be a rapper. And the guy that started this whole program said, well, let's make you into one. Mm-hmm. And they went about doing it. And by the time it was all said and done, he'd recorded an album. Now, I don't think he was very good at it,
Yeah.
But it wasn't because at first I was like, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Just because I want to be something, if I don't think I'm good at it, I'm not going to try it. However, when the story was over, I understood something that I didn't at the beginning, is I bet somewhere along the process he learned a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe found something else in there that, because by going through that process, you touch on the different aspects of that particular desire, or that passion, that whatever it is, the hobby, whatever you want to call it. Maybe along the way you find something, you go, okay, well, in the end, I wasn't really good. I could say I did it, but I learned something, and that is that I enjoyed this part of it, and now I can pursue that.
Yeah.
And maybe it turns into a vocation. So once again, that idea of that, just my eyes were open to the idea, because at first I'm like, okay, that sounds dumb. Why would you? I mean, if you're not good, you're not going to be. But who's to say?
Yeah, like I'm not going to go record an album. That ain't happening. Like I'm not going to just sit down and record an album because I know that's going to turn out really badly. But you're right. I'm sure through the process I'd learn something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be, it would be interesting to do that though.
And wouldn't it? I mean, just, if somebody helped you line everything up, you got into a studio, you did this and this, and then at the end of it, you found something out.
Didn't MTV have a show like that where they would take people in to like whatever their dream was, kind of a thing, and they would like put them in that industry or whatever, kind of to let them live the life for a day or something like that?
I don't remember that, but that sounds like a brilliant reality TV.
I really feel like
it does sound very familiar.
Yeah, was it called like Imposters or something like that?
Yeah, something. It sounds very familiar.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's I don't know. Nope, that's the wrong show. Yeah, because that's on Bravo apparently. So that's not the right one. I know. I'm almost positive it was MTV that had it though. But anyway, it's that kind of an idea. I like the concept of doing that. Dang it, I can't remember now. There was also a show that was really similar, I think, that had Steve-O, where he was doing that. Like, somebody would write in and be like, I need help with this. It was called, like, Dr. Steve-O or something like that, where they would, like, write in. Like, I remember one where a guy wrote into him and told him that he was, like, terrible talking to women. And, like, Steve-O brought these, like, models with him. And made the guy like talk to these models basically. And he goes, if you can talk to these women, you can talk to, kind of and then they put him in the field and made him talk and he got over it because he saw that he could do it basically. And, kind of immersion therapy basically, and, so, it would be though. It'd be a lot of fun to do that for people. It'd just be like, okay, what's your dream? Let's make this happen. Even if it never turns into anything else, you at the end of the day can look at an album cover and go, I had an album. Even if it's terrible,
Yeah, but I think that was it. Is it's like, because at first I was like, oh, why would you do that? But then like you just said at the end, it's like he had an album. He can honestly say he's a rapper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
He did it. Mm-hmm. No one could say he didn't.
Yeah. You're totally right. It's, that's, and I think that would be, a lot of fun for some people, as long as they don't have the delusions that it's going to lead to something else, basically, or you never know, it might, I mean, look how long, God, what's that guy's name? The one that was on American Idol that's, did She Bangs and just kept getting booked in TV shows and various other stuff. Oh, what was that guy's name? Because he was terrible.
Juan or
I think it was like William Hung or something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's like he was not good at singing or dancing or whatever, but he got his 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So you never know.
He had a lot of passion.
Yes, that he did. There you go, right? It's important.
Yep.
I mean, you think about it too.
He had
it's like
a lot of passion for what he was doing.
When you're in school, the teachers you remember are always the ones that had passion. Well, I guess, or really boring, but the ones who usually affect people are the ones that are passionate about the subject. So, the next tip on here is pay attention to who makes you annoyed or jealous. It says, are there people doing things that are frivolous who annoy you? Take a closer look at that annoyance. Is the truth behind your annoyance that you really wished you could live so freely? That you didn't have so many serious responsibilities and could be as immature as they are? After a lifetime of being an overachieving, do what everyone expects of me student, when I embarked on my Mexican adventure at 33, I wanted to give myself a break and find time to pursue my freshly discovered passions for writing and dancing. Most people thought I was nuts, but my father got the angriest. He told me I was wasting my life and should let him set me up with my own clinic instead. He pounded the kitchen table with his fist, shouting, "Life isn't supposed to be fun. When are you going to grow up like the rest of us?" Thankfully, I ignored him, as I did everyone else who tried to discourage me. A few years later, when it was clear that living, writing, and dancing in Mexico was one of the best decisions and career moves I ever made, my dad sold his business and moved to Hawaii to write his first novel. I'm convinced he was largely so upset because he wanted to do what I was doing. At the time, I'm quite sure he didn't know that, but eventually he figured it out. And I agree. A lot of times people look at the world as, like you have to get up, you go to the grind, you come home, whatever, because that's essentially the way they were taught, because that's what their parents did, and their parents did, and their parents did, and it doesn't have to be the case. There are a lot of people that, especially when you can chase your passions, and I think that's a lot of it too, is recognizing kind of where you are and what you can do, cause there's a lot of people I've met over the years that are musicians that are at a certain point are like, I really don't want to tour because I have kids, or I have a wife and kids, or I have this, or I do something else that I can't leave for, weeks on end. And, but I'll still go play gigs around town, So they're still doing something they're passionate about. They're still, they've just,
They've modified it to fit their life and fit what they needed it to be.
Yeah. But, there's always going to be people out there telling you you're not good enough, or, it's silly, or that's, depending on what kind of parents you have, it's be like, well, that's not something guys do, or, a friend of mine that was going into nursing when I was at college, his dad just would not lay off of him about how, real men don't go into nursing. And, and he didn't let it stop him. He still went through and did it. And, but it was the idea that, that's an environment, an influential person in your environment that's, trying to get you to do something different. So, as long as you're not hurting anybody, go after it,
chase those passions and figure them out. Try different things till you figure out what suits you best.
Yep. And as we've said before on here, go ahead.
Oh, so this tip goes back to the whole I'm going to prove you wrong idea that we talked about on some other topic, where it's there's nothing to motivate. I mean, my dad was a great motivator for me to be a musician because he didn't want me to be one.
Right.
That's like,
Yeah.
Let me tell you if you're number one. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, imagine me holding one finger up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't let I'm grateful for my mother, because my mother reminded my dad that, what did your parents want you to be? And my dad had to say, a doctor. What are you? An architect.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
let the kid pursue, being a musician.
Yeah.
And, and I still went to school. And what's funny is in all of that, I found something else that I was passionate about.
Yeah.
And that's what I do for a living to this day.
Right.
Nice.
And
and I had no idea.
And that's really why, at a certain point, you just have to let people make, whether it's they make a mistake or they find the path or whatever, however you want to look at it, you just have to let them go on their discovery, and it's, because sometimes, you chase that dream and you realize real quick it's not going to happen, or something. And you go, okay, well, I'm going to do this now. And especially when you're younger, like fresh out of high school, when everybody's like, oh, you have to go to college. It's like, if you have a dream to chase it. Like, if you think you can be a musician, go be a musician. You know, you can go to college later. You know, it'll be there. You know, I know it's easier when it's, you know, when you're that age because, you know, you're already in the habit of school and everything. But I don't know. I just don't think, I don't know. Again, to me, it just feels like living for somebody else. You know, it's like,
and my first, you know, when I got into the job that I do today, it was a summer job, and I was working with a bunch of art history majors, English lit majors, and none of them do that. They all went back to school later because they all went right to school, out of high school, doing, you know, parents wanted them. They hadn't even gone out and lived in the world at all.
Yeah.
Hadn't experienced anything. And that's what I think this is about. I don't know, my first boss at the studio, he was just one of those people that wanted to tell you all the things that you should avoid and look out for and don't do this. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm a tough learner. I need to experience it for myself.
Yeah. Yep. It's why my dad always was the type that, you know, told me that, you know, he would say hey, this could, you know, like, don't do this or whatever. And he's like, I always feel as your father, I have to say this. If you don't listen to me, at least I can go, hey, I did my part. You know, like, I tried to steer you the right way. If you choose to do something else, fall on your face, whatever, that's part of it. You know, we all have done it, no matter what, you know, and it's something that humans just have to do. You know, you can watch as a baby, you can watch adults walk around, but you're still going to crawl first. You're going to fall a lot when you're first trying to walk, you know, like all these things. It's like, we don't just immediately go, oh yeah, that's the right idea and do it.
Right.
You know, many times we're like, oh, there's a wall. Let me bang my head against it for a few hours. So yeah. The next one on here is think of what you love to do as a child. So this is probably the simplest way to unearth what pursuits hold the potential to light up your days. Before the grown-ups get to us with their ideas, most of us know exactly who we are and what would make us happiest. Were you obsessed with horses? Maybe you should head to a dude ranch for your next vacation. Love finger painting or drawing? Sign up for an art class. Sang at the top of your lungs until people begged you to stop? Think about joining a local choir or starting your own garage band.
This is true.
Yeah. And it really is, you know, it is interesting because, you know, the whole time, like when you're a little kid, you get asked what do you want to be when you grow up? All the time. People ask you over and over and over. You get into high school, people will be like, what are you going to college for, basically? Or, you know, it's kind of the same question, but it's, you know, it's not as cute, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and then once you're out of college, usually people are just, that's it. That's the end of it. You know, you don't really look at what you want to be when you grow up or whatever until you hit, you know, 39 and you're having a midlife crisis. And
realize that you have settled for something that is not passion for you.
Well, or you've gone through and lived life, but you're on the other side of that part of it, and you don't, you know, now it's okay. Well, what do I want to do now? You know. Mm-hmm. Kind of like if you worked a job for 20 years and then the job disappeared. It's like, okay, well, now what? You know, I have to find something different. You know, and I think this is a really good exercise, though, is sit down and literally ask yourself, what do I want to be when I grow up? You know, because
that's interesting.
Yeah, or what did I want to be when I grow up? You know, grew up. Sorry.
I just had that conversation with a friend of mine who's just facing. You know, he's 54 and going, well, unless I go back to school, I'm out of my career because technology happened while he wasn't doing it.
Right.
And I asked him the same question. It's like, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Like this idea of like, you do have life left.
Yeah.
How about finding something that you could see yourself doing?
Yep. Well, and the beautiful part is you hit like him or me. We're really lucky because in one aspect, because not everyone gets the opportunity to just stand and go, I can go wherever I want right now. You know, like that's reserved for the young usually, or the like retired, you know, usually when you're in that middle age group, you don't get this. So, you know, it's like with me, that's part of my, like, I want to be careful what I choose because I have this opportunity, you know? So, and same with him, you know, like you were saying, if you know, what would make you the happiest right now? What would you really like to do, you know? And is that feasible? Or can you get near it, basically, you know?
Or is there something that you could do right now that would bring you some joy?
Mm-hmm.
At the very least.
Exactly, yeah. Like I said, you know, because it's not an opportunity everyone gets, you know? Yep. A lot of people work until they're whatever age and they retire, and then, you know, then they, you know, sometimes can start doing the things that make them happy, you know? So it's, if you're a person out there who's kind of in the same boat, you know, try not to see it as a negative, even though, you know, especially if you lose your job or something. I understand it's scary. It's really difficult, you know, to look at the world and go, I'm not trained for anything, you know, like I'm trained for this, and this, like you said, this doesn't exist anymore, you know, or it's being phased out, kind of a thing. So out of curiosity, while we're on this, what did you want to be when you were a little kid, Heno?
Yeah. Besides a superhero?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right.
I mean, that, you know, all right, so if I go back to the earliest, you know, it literally was, okay, I want to be a superhero, you know?
Right, yeah. I wanted to be Superman.
That was my world.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my earliest memories. You know, at one point I wanted to, when these are the things I had, fascination with, like huge, like Tonka trucks and, just earth moving vehicles, right? But never at any point did I thought, I want to drive one of these. I was, you know, but superhero, I wanted to be a superhero.
Sure,
you know?
Yeah, right,
but
right.
I mean, I discovered guitar when I was 12. I mean, I'd played earlier, but it was when I discovered that I loved guitar. And at that point, it was like my future was set.
Right, exactly.
That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, like when I was a little kid, I probably went through different stuff, like I want to be Superman or Batman or whatever. And then, you know, once I got probably 5th, 6th grade, I was probably like artist. And it never changed from that point. It was, you know, all through high school, I geared all my electives basically were for art classes, all that kind of stuff. I took as much art as I could basically because I, you know, became laser focused. This is what I want to do. This is what makes me happy. And this is the path I'm going on. What about you, Jen?
I wanted to be a vet.
A what?
I loved animals.
Oh, a vet. Okay.
I loved animals and stuff. And I realized very quickly, though, with the amount of schooling necessary to become a veterinarian, as well as taking care of, you know, sick animals and stuff, it pulled on my heartstrings a lot.
Yeah.
So I quickly learned that my passion for animals would be better used in other ways. Mm-hmm. You know, vet was probably not the best choice for me.
Right.
I always loved drama, and I loved, you know, plays and musicals and being parts of that in the stage. Loved the stage. But talked myself out of the whole stage thing because of how difficult it is to have a career in stage.
Fair enough.
You know, so I talked myself out of that. And so that became, you know, kind of a background passion for me. And I ended up settling on business, which is the safe bet, you know. It's a safe decision. Go to school, get my business degree, and go into the corporate world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I've said that to a bunch of people when they're in college and, you know, I don't really know what I want. I'm like, just get a business degree. Just get business management or something like, just some degree like that, because there's so many places that just having that will allow you to get an interview, you know, whereas if you didn't have that, you won't even get the interview, you know, so it's,
Exactly.
That's understandable.
So, you know, it's tough because I miss the stage, and I miss, you know, I have animals, so I get to kind of indulge myself in that passion of mine.
Right.
You know, but trying to find that balance. I keep telling myself that hopefully one day I'll get back to the stage and I'll get, when I'm retired or when I have some real free time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doing the volunteering and stuff to help out.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what do we got next here? The next one is notice when you lose track of time or what you hate to stop doing. It says, when I work at the clinic seeing a long lineup of sore throats and knees, I watch the clock all day until I'm finally done. Yet when I have a patient in front of me who is depressed or anxious or newly diagnosed with a condition that would benefit from lifestyle change, I often lose my usual urgency and spend a big chunk of time with them. Not surprisingly, my true passion in life is life and health coaching, where I have the luxury of time with clients and love spending great swaths of time teaching and encouraging. She put, I dance flamenco until my legs or body force me to stop. I also love working on my health and happiness expert business so much that I have to force myself to stop writing and reading to sleep and eat and play. It's reverse clock watching. I get annoyed as time goes by. What a different world. What would you love to spend hours doing that you never get enough time to? That's a passion and you probably need to do it more than you are. Which is a great point.
It's a great point.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are those things that you can just do for hours on end besides video games?
That was the thing. Like for me, it would have always been drawing, because that's what used to happen is I would start and I just completely lose track of time. I just put on, turn the radio on or put on, a CD or something like that and just whatever. Now I would just, turn on Spotify and just stream, and I, just get lost, in that. Right now, right now, video games is the only thing that's really happening too. Maybe podcasting, but I've been doing this long enough now that I can kind of tell where we're at time-wise without looking.
Mm-hmm.
I can almost tell you, and I'm pretty good about it.
Yeah.
So I notice, but that's only because I'm the one who usually does the recording. If I was doing someone else's podcast, I wouldn't pay as much attention to it. And I do enjoy doing this. But yeah, drawing was always the thing for me, or just listening to music. When I would just sit and listen to music, you just like, wow, I've been sitting here for 4 hours and didn't care, type of thing. Or, I actually find myself now going, I need to listen to more music because I don't feel like I'm doing it enough. It's always been something I'm passionate about, even though I've never really wanted to go into any music, basically. It's just something I've always really liked.
And usually if you have something like that you can do for hours, you typically can also talk about it.
Yep. You
could possibly sell it. Like there was one time where I went into a music store with some friends of mine and they were looking to buy some pedals and they asked for my input on it. And I literally became a salesperson.
Yeah, I've done that.
And at one point she's like, you ever thought about working in a music store? And I'm like, no, I haven't.
I had actually given that some thought as to something I want to do. It's like, there's a few art stores around town that.
Yeah, good job in art store.
Potentially go work there. Cause it's something I'm passionate about. I have a decent, I don't know maybe newer stuff, but I have a pretty good knowledge of, products. And if not, I can learn. It's, it's retail stuff. I have no problems with that. But, that was kind of the thing, like when you mentioned about, can you talk about it? Can you, sell it or whatever? That's kind of what happened was, with owning a comic book shop. I got to be around comic books. I got to read comic books. I got to discuss them with other people. I got to, be excited about them and get them excited about them, that kind of stuff. And, so that was kind of where I replaced, the idea of being in the industry basically was that, I was still, you're part of the comics world. You're just on the end part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and really I enjoyed doing that. That was something I really liked because, when I'm working around something I'm passionate about,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't pay enough money. So,
That's kind of the
Yeah.
the realism that comes with passion projects is a lot of times they don't pay.
Yeah. Or it takes a while for them to pay because you gotta kind of put the work in and, build something. So what about you, Jen? What do you get lost doing? I know one thing you get lost doing, but I don't know if I'd call it a passion.
My boyfriend, the TV.
Yep. But it was a certain kind of TV.
I do love and get quite addicted to my TV. I spend a lot of time with my TV. It's not necessarily, like you said, it's not really a passion per se.
Yeah.
But it is that's kind of my number one thing I get lost in. Other than my animals, I can get lost in playing with my animals and hanging out with my animals. A lot of time passes that way, and I don't necessarily, pay that close of attention to how much time it is when I'm with them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not something that you're like, okay, it's been an hour, I gotta stop.
Right. So it's it's so weird because the medicine that I'm on also kind of takes the edge off of passion.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
So
well, it does to me totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I don't have the strong passions I used to have.
Yeah.
And I do get a little bit restless and bored easily.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough for me to get lost in things like I used to.
Right.
It's tough for me to be as passionate about things as I used to be.
Yeah, because my other big one used to be reading.
Mm-hmm.
I would just sit and read and not care that it was,
me
3
too.
or 4 hours or 5 hours or whatever. Whether it was comic books or novels or whatever, it was, I didn't care, it's just, even reading stuff on the internet, like looking up something and learning about something like that, I would just kind of go down that rabbit hole and do it on purpose then. Not like now where generally if I end up down a rabbit hole, it's because, you've clicked on one thing and then you see that video off to the side and you're like, ooh, and then you see another video, It was more like before I'm like, okay, well I didn't learn exactly what I want. So you alter like I was doing it for knowledge before, not entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. That's actually, like, honestly, the two passions I would really like to recapture in my life are reading and drawing. And drawing I honestly think will be easier than reading because I have a really hard time focusing after a certain amount of time with reading. It gets really to where my brain just drifts away. So
yeah, I keep wanting to revisit my passion for reading because that is something that I have let go.
Yeah.
But I was always quite the reader growing up and stuff.
Yeah. Because even like listening to podcasts, I love listening to podcasts, but again, when you listen to them, they're generally, anywhere from half an hour to 3 hours or whatever they end up being,
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of know, and again, a lot of the podcasts I listen to, without them even having like bits within the show to where you're like, oh, okay, we must be near the end of the show or halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
Or, it's like I can usually kind of know where we're at. Like if you said, how long has passed, I'm usually within about 5 minutes, so it's, again, and that's because I'm used to recording and paying attention to time, which kind of sucks because that kind of takes a little of the passion away from it.
Right.
But it's
exactly.
It's a necessary part of it for me. So, Let's see. The last one is see your passion hunt as a fun, joyful adventure. It says, in my coaching and speaking work, I see people putting pressure on themselves to find their passion. I do believe it's critically important to discover and engage in things that light you up, but it's just as important to cultivate an unserious, childlike attitude of play, wonder, and adventure. When you deliberately open yourself to noticing things you might enjoy doing, don't be afraid of getting it wrong. It's all an adventure. You're learning and growing as you go. Happiness research shows that trying new things increases dopamine levels in the brain, contributing to sustained levels of contentment. So try away. Notice what you love. Notice what makes you feel like a kid. Notice what you long to have more time for. Make time for these things, whatever you can manage, and watch your life start to change. It's really magical. Sam, that's the end of it.
I think that's the key is if you stay out of the outcomes, then you'll enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
And it'll keep the idea of an open mind, and possibilities. I think that's, when we're younger, that laser focused drive and desire in our passions is very useful. But I think, it's what gets you to where you want to go and where you want to get to, is to have that laser-like focus.
Right.
Right. There's, if you, just mainly because of musicians are my thing. When I listen to the musicians that have made it, they didn't get lucky. They put in a ton of work.
That cannot be emphasized enough. Same with artists of any kind, or really a lot of professions, doctors, any of it. They've put in a ton of work to get where they are.
And yes, there is a certain amount of luck on where you fall in things. However, that laser-like focus is really required to get somewhere for sure.
Yeah. And you can't have that luck unless you've put that work in for the most part. I know once in a while there's that anomaly. But for the most part, it's like, look, you're not going to get picked to work in a comic book, or, hey, we need a new guitar player in our group, unless you've put in work. You can't just pick up a guitar and go play in someone's band and be any good. Like, that's not going to happen unless they're really desperate.
And the thing is, though, is it can also be a problem. And once again, with like music, where you have this, let's say a young woman, she wants to be the lead singer. Mm-hmm. That's her whole thing. And it doesn't work out. And that person just gives up and says, well, I guess it's time to go get a real job or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But completely forgetting about all the opportunities that came along the way to, record jingles somewhere, make a living that way, or
being a background
to go
singer
on tour and be a backup singer for a band or whatever it is, just to where you can still make a living at your profession. It may just not be the end that you wanted or that you desired. It doesn't mean that you still can't get something out of the journey. And I think that's really important. That last tip
I do too.
If you truly have a passion for something, and I think we can all relate to this with podcasting. None of us got into this thinking that we were going to make money at it. We did it because we enjoyed it. There was something about it that rang with us. And hey, if something happens to come along as a result of it, how awesome.
Yeah.
But that's truly, I think, about enjoying the journey is that I've decided that this is something I'm willing to pursue regardless of outcomes.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
I
like
agree.
with me, for the long time, I think that was part of the problem with me wanting to get back into drawing was I think at a certain point, it was no longer about trying to find passion as much as it was like me guilting myself and putting this immense pressure on myself that I have to do this. Whereas now I'm like looking at it going, you know what, if I get to where I'm doing this and I start doing it and realize this doesn't bring me the joy it used to, I need to be okay with that. That happens. Sometimes people you can have a talent, do stuff with it for a while and move to something else. There's tons of people who start in one career and end up way away from that career. Look at, what's his name? Ken Jeong, the comedian. He went to med school, he was a doctor. And now he's, a guy who acts in comedies and stuff, totally like way away from one another. But it's something that, he chased his passion. He had a great fallback. Don't get me wrong. It's gotta be nice when at any point you can just go back to being a doctor. But it's still the idea that, he went for it and, and obviously it was worth it to him. And whereas, like I said, with me, for a long time, I think I was resenting it as much as I was doing anything. So.
And that can happen when you passions change. And if you try to pigeonhole yourself into something that you're no longer passionate about, you can make it quite miserable.
Right. And like, instead of me recognizing, for a long time, instead of recognizing that I was being creative, it just wasn't in the same form. I was still being creative by, various stuff I've written, or I've, been on, with podcasting, or, Twitter, or whatever it is. It's that there's elements of creativity in a lot of that stuff. And in just going, you know what, it's like you're disappointed you're not drawing, but it's like at its core, you were creative, Now you're still creative. You're just different creative, so, and that might have to be good enough. Maybe that's where I end up,
Absolutely.
Very cool list.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, I really love the idea of passion, and I love the idea of exploring passion projects, and I think life gets pretty boring if we didn't have that type of stuff in our lives.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something to seek out and to invest time and energy into.
Yeah. And really, if you don't feel that there's anything that's bringing you passion or this kind of thing in your life, as far as, whatever, like, like this said, take an inventory, kind of look at things. Mm-hmm. Is there a point, what is it you want to do? Do you have a point where you can, like Henno with his video games, there's been times where he's like, I'm putting my video games aside because I want to get this done. Like there's something either he's wanted to get done or needs to get done. And he recognizes that the video games are something you can, easily set aside and come back to or whatever,
Yeah.
Like me, it'd be the same thing. Game. Yeah, it'd be the same thing with me. I play video games a decent amount. It's like, well, if I need to find another hour or two in my day for something, right there is where it needs to come from,
Yeah.
So, make sure you do that. What?
I tell you, it'd be a lot different if I still had my Dungeons and Dragons crew, though, because that is different. That's me actually going somewhere, hanging out with friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
That is different.
I view that as something. Yes, exactly. Yep, that's the way I always saw that, and that was something like when we had our shop, with Magic the Gathering, is there were people who didn't like it because it was fooling with, not fooling with, but it was called Magic and whatever.
Yeah.
And, and I'd point out to him and be like, you do realize, like, a lot of these people playing are the types that are real introverts, This gets them social interactivity or interaction with people, that a lot of them, you can tell, don't get a lot of, And that's really, really a good thing to provide for people. And that's a really good thing to go get. If you're an introvert and you find a club or a group or some, Magic or whatever it ends up being, bowling league that gets you out of the house, gets you socializing, all those things they're generally good for you. So I'm with you, Henno. I wouldn't consider that, I don't consider video games a waste of time anytime, but, like, I don't think, I wouldn't see them as expendable as like D&D or whatever. Even though I guess when you're playing games, like you said, you do talk with people. You can talk while you're playing them. So there is an element of that to it too, but not the same as Inhuman. Yeah, not the same as in Inhuman, in person.
Mm-hmm. Yes, human one-on-one contact in communication. It does have a different feel to it. It just it hits a different perspective, I guess. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, because these are the other things you have to look at in your passions if you decide. Because a lot of times there's only so many hours in the day, and if you decide, okay, I'm changing the focus in my life, and it's something that I tend to do. I'm going to really look at what's important to me and what's not. And like, if it came down to after, let's say things did change and I had won the election and I was like, okay, I can't do all the podcasts. Well, I'm sorry, but Gotham is not going to be high on the list, but The Crazy Life is.
Right.
Because it's a passion that I get connection. Not even, I love talking to Steph, but we're talking about a television show.
Yeah.
Where this is about what's going on in my life and ways that I can improve my life. And I'm having this conversation with two other human beings. And I find that to be very rare these days, that people actually talk about helping each other.
Yeah.
True.
Right.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people also have those, there is a value we can place on our passions that is beyond just the passion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where you sit there and you go, I get more out of this than just, a pastime.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
And again, that was part of the reason, like when I played Magic or when I bowled, that was the other part of it, is as much as I love bowling, I also liked going and hanging out with my friends that I bowled with, and the, interacting with other teams. Cause a lot of the guys in there, you kind of, you become like friendly with, you're not hanging out with them anywhere else, but it's, you're friendly with them. And having a good time because you're all there to bowl and enjoy the game of bowling, or magic or music or whatever it is, and there's just that camaraderie. Or like when we've gone to beer fests, it's the same idea. You walk into a lot of these beer fests and everybody there, like, hey, these are people who are passionate about the same thing I am, so let's, and people just have that kind of attitude. It really adds something to it. It's not just hey, let's go try some beers. It's now about experiencing those beers with other people.
Yep.
And it's an experience at that point, which is, those are the things that are rarer for a lot of us, You can do a lot of stuff, but having a real experience is, not as plentiful for a lot of people.
Right. Absolutely. Well, with that, guys, I don't know. How do we feel? We good?
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, great conversation. Great topic. Definitely something that requires some more thought and probably some introspection, at least on my part, for sure. Yeah. So with that, though, folks, if you want to continue the conversation with us, we would love to hear from you. If you have topics you would love to hear us talk about, let us know. If you'd like to be on the show and sit down and talk with us one-on-one, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know. You can reach me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. You can also reach us via our website, our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can also reach us via email at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. And you, Heno, how can you reach you?
Find me on Twitter at IdaHeno, and you can find me on Facebook, Heno Heiter. Go ahead and send me a message or a friend request. I'd love to hear from you.
Nice.
Brian?
You can also find the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast, Salty Language, at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, unlike this one. So, be careful who you're listening to us around. If you want to find us on Facebook, we're located at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. And we got various information over there that have, help if you need help, like finding a therapist or, suicide prevention hotline numbers. Those kind of things are over there. Or, just hit one of us up and we can get you that info. What am I missing here? I guess nothing. Okay. We're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. If you're on iTunes, please go rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. Really help us out in the searches and move up on lists and whatnot. If you're using Stitcher or another podcast app, please use the like or share button for the same reasons. It helps us get noticed a little easier. And then I guess at this point, I'll remind you that we're not doctors, therapists, or trained professionals, just three people sharing our opinions and experiences. If you feel that you need help, please reach out to somebody. Talk to your friends, talk to family, talk to your doctor, somebody like that. And, whatever, please don't self-diagnose, and please don't see this show as a replacement for counseling or therapy. Again, if you need help, please seek it out. Don't be silly like me and wait 20 years. And if you're feeling as though you may harm yourself or others, definitely reach out to somebody. Talk to friends, family, your doctor or whatever. Go to the hospital, tell them you're having a mental health emergency, so they can help you through that crisis. Please try not to be alone. That's the worst thing you could do at that point. Again, please don't act on it. If you notice that, wow, totally lost my train of thought. Wow. I don't know. Wow. I cannot remember where I go next.
Train has left the building.
Wow. I've done this how many times now? Yeah. Oh my goodness. If you notice yourself, planning anything or writing notes or anything along those lines, please, take that as a giant red flag and reach out to somebody at that point. Please seek help then. Don't wait any longer. And then the last thing is to reach out to somebody. Tell people you love them, you appreciate them, you're thankful for them. Whatever it is, just reach out to somebody maybe you haven't talked to in a long time, or even if it's someone you do talk to all the time, just check in with them, make sure they're doing okay. Geez, I just did it again. What the heck is going on?
It is a late night, folks.
Not
so
for me, it isn't. Yeah, not for me.
He's just waking up.
Like, I've only been up like 5 hours. Jeez. Anyway, reach out to people, cause you never know when it might make their day or it might save their life.
There you go.
Sure, that's close enough.
Close enough. Good enough.
Jeez.
Winning.
I really need to just record that whole thing, cause
Plop it at the end.
yeah. Oh boy.
With that, folks, have a great week. And like Brian said, reach out and talk to somebody. Wiggle those toes. Keep breathing. Talk to you later.